Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 241 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. Today we are continuing our discussion and discovery and application of the IDEANCE process, emotional IDEANCE process, with step 5 today. Step 5 is next. And this is a step where we do a couple of things, or I like to do a couple of things. Number one, I like to reflect on and think about the action that I took yesterday. Is it being effective? Do I know if it's effective yet or not? And this is where I like to talk about doing different types of measures. How do I know I'm making progress to fill the gap between where I am and where I want to be? Well, we have to find ways to measure that. So we can come up with creative ways, or we can just journal or document or find different ways to actually know that we're getting closer to the outcome that we want. A lot of times we just intuitively know, hey, the action I took yesterday, it's going to take a few days to figure out if it's actually working, but my gut tells me it's going to work. So I'm just going to either keep doing more of it, or I'm going to take a deep breath, I'm going to reflect, I'm going to just wait for the action that I took to go into effect. So say yesterday I decided I was going to go find a shrink or a coach. This is not the one I selected, but just say I did, because I want to eliminate fear and go from being fearful to fearless in my life and in my businesses. Well, I might have put in a few phone calls and set up some interviews with different, I call them psychiatrists, psychologists, shrinks, coaches, mentors, etc., in the area of handling emotions, handling difficult emotions, specifically in my case. And I might not have set up, I might have not talked to them yet, or had a chance to set up an interview or a get to know you meeting yet, because everybody's schedules are busy. My schedule's busy, so I have to find a way to fit that in. So if I've called, if I've left messages, now I'm just going to have to wait a few days or a week to hear back from people or set up time, because I'm not just going to pick somebody willy-nilly, right? I need to make sure that they meet the criteria of what I'm looking for in that kind of help and coaching and mentoring, etc. And especially when it comes to psychological, deep-seated, emotional type things, I'm going to be very careful about that. So that means that my next step is to keep moving forward in my life, but not fret or worry about that. Let it take its time to process. Sometimes we get very impatient with thinking things should be done when we just started them, or we just took one action yesterday and we expect to be all the way to our end result, our end goal. We have to be vigilant, resilient, but also a teeny bit realistic in terms of, especially when outside forces or things outside of our control are involved. Me finding someone is within my control, but finding the right person and them also choosing me, that's not in my control. Only they know what's right for them, and only I know what's right for me. So the whole topic of next, I love this step because it makes me take a deep breath, consider how I'm going to be measuring, filling that gap, and deciding what is my next step. It always reminds me of the Frozen movies. I have little granddaughters, and so of course Disney movies and Frozen is definitely a part of our life. And Anna and General Mateus, I think his name is, says we just need to do the next right thing. And this step reminds me of that too. I'm not going to necessarily just stop and not do anything else or take any action toward becoming more fearless. I'm going to wait for those phone calls to come, or wait for those connections to happen so I can pick someone. But in the meantime, I might go get a book on fear and dealing with fear, overcoming fear, etc. Or I might look online for a course. So I can do the next thing that I'm feeling inclined to do without having to wait for the first thing's results to show up. Why do I want to do that? Because the more we pack on to things, the more action we take towards something we want, pretty soon we build momentum and we achieve it much faster than if we just did one thing and sat back and waited, and then did another thing, or said, oh, well, that didn't work. It's been 2 weeks. Maybe I should try something else. No, I like to stack on, especially during this process, stack on different actions so I can exponentially increase my chances of achieving my goal and objective by the end of the year. All right, so that's what we're doing today. Our action item today is to ask ourselves, what is my next step? What do I do next? Do I need to pause and reflect and look for other actions I can take? Just jump back to my options day and say, okay, well, what's next? What can I do next? What was the next thing that came up on my action list yesterday? Can I take a step toward that? Is there another step I need to do or I can control in the process of the action that I did take and the action that I did select. Maybe you just put in a couple of calls to people, and instead of just sitting and waiting to hear back, don't be too antsy, but maybe you do a follow-up message. Hey, just checking in. When might I expect to hear from you? Love to, spend 15 minutes talking to you to see if it's a fit for both of us. Again, whatever is appropriate for your situation. Any questions about this? Again, I like this step because it makes me slow down in the process. I tend to run through my life. And so I've learned to build steps into my processes and pauses into my life to reflect, to think about what I really want, to really pay attention to what is, not what I want to be, but I have to know what is in order to go toward what I want to be. Hope that makes sense. If not, all you have to do is ask. Have an amazing day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow. Let's explore what's next today.